All right, Shalom Akim, Shalom, Shalom. This is your brother Zakaria Allah, branched out here in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. Come with another lesson through the Spirit, and Lord willing, this be edifying to the Lord's elect. Before I get started with this lesson, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Cha Kodash, Koholo Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Cha Kodash, Barakatha Yahweh, Barakatha Yahweh Shai. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, for whom I've grown in this truth under. Shalom to the Akim out there that's pushing the truth, that's laboring in the word, and that's pushing the gospel of the great kingdom that's going to come. All right, shalom to the Akwath that's listening in, that's remaining true to the faith, and remaining faithful and submissive to their husbands and guiding their children. And shalom to the hopeful elect of the 12 tribes scattered abroad throughout the four corners of the earth, to you Israelite foreigners out there who live among the heathen and who look like those heathen nations. But your lineage goes back to the progenitors of the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel through the line of your fathers. I want to say peace and blessings to you all. Barakathum. All right. So I wanted to dive into this video. Okay. This video that's been done by this lovely lady on the screen, you know what I'm saying? And you know what I'm saying, I claim this woman to be one of my wives. Bahashem Hamashiach Yahushai. You know what I'm saying? She hits some serious points. All right, some serious points, and she does it in such a way, you know what I'm saying? She's very articulate with her words. You know what I'm saying? And this video is 11 minutes long, so I may not be going into all of it. You know what I'm saying? Lord willing, I'll upload the whole video, you know what I'm saying, separately, but you know, it has to be said, man. All right. Because a lot of people have seen this whole vote that took place over in United Nations General Assembly, okay, last week. And you know, a lot of people are trying to sweep it under the rug, you know what I'm saying, and not give it its due respect as to how precedented this vote actually was. You know what I'm saying? Even if it was simply, all right, just an acknowledgement. To understand that this has never been a formal acknowledgement on the world stage, all right, ever, until today, lets you know just how close we are to the end. You know what I'm saying? And the thing about it is that in Esau's hubris, all right, in the depths of his pride, you know, this is how you know that the Lord is about to bring, all right, overwhelming punishment to these Edomites. You see what I'm saying? Because he's hardening his heart the same way he hardened Pharaoh's heart before great judgments and plagues engulfed Egypt, all right, in time past. You see what I'm saying? And like I said, this lady articulates all these different points. You know what I'm saying? She paints the context in a way that is so well spoken. You know what I'm saying? That it brings the point home as to why America voting the way that it voted means what it means. You know what I'm saying? Why it's so impactful. All right. I was listening to a video from the beloved Elder Edumb from Alabama. You know what I'm saying? And he was going into the fact that this captivity literally changed our DNA. You see what I'm saying? The trauma that took place amongst amongst our ancestors, those that came before, which here we are in the reincarnation, we are our ancestors coming back. That trauma remains. Okay? So let's listen. As a matter of fact, I wanted to get this point here because all of this is just impromptu, I don't have anything lined up. I'm just going to roll in the spirit on this. But let me read Psalms. All right. This is Psalms chapter 83. This is Psalms chapter 83, verse 1. It says, "Keep not thou silence, O power. Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O power. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, Come, and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee." And then you read on, and it goes on to list all these nations that had a part to play in our captivity, headed by the chief nation, Esau, Edom, our own twin brother. And at the helm was the Amalekites, the head tribe of the nation of Edom. You see what I'm saying? And, you have to understand just how significant this whole conspiracy was. You see what I'm saying? All these nations came together to conspire against the Lord, man, and against his people. You see? To take crafty counsel, this took planning. And it took a lot of coordination. You see what I'm saying? To think that this was an effort in order to make sure that the children of Israel would literally forget who we were, and for the world to forget who we were. You see? And this is why the judgment is going to be so severe upon all these nations, beginning with Esau, Edom. So let's listen in.
This might be the one that gets me kicked off this platform. So I'm going to be graphic. It is what it is. Let's talk. Because this week something happened that took us about 400 years to get to. And before I tell you what was said, I need to tell you what was being named. Because this is the part that never gets said with the weight that it deserves. Before a single ship left the coast of West Africa, the people who were going to be put on it were already being processed, stripped naked, prodded, groped. Traders invasively examined the breast, buttocks, and vaginal areas of women and girls, allegedly to assess their childbearing ability. Men and boys were groped around the groin, scrotum, and anus. One white trafficker who later testified described the process as similar to what you would do to a horse before purchasing it. These were human beings, y'all. They were being evaluated the way that you would evaluate livestock. And when the evaluation was done, they were assigned a number, not a name, a number, and loaded onto ships. These ships were built into two categories: tight packers and loose packers. Tight packers maximized profit. Human beings were measured with instruments with charts to calculate how many bodies could be chained in a single row. The space allocated per person was roughly the size of a coffin. Men were shackled together in pairs at the wrists and ankles and packed into the hold lying on their sides, unable to sit up, unable to turn over, unable to move. The heat in the hold was lethal and suffocating. There was almost no ventilation. The air was so thick with human waste, sweat, and disease that sailors reported being unable to breathe when they opened the hatch. Dysentery tore through entire decks. People vomited on each other. People had diarrhea on each other. People died chained to the person beside them and stayed there, rotting, until someone came to remove the body. Sometimes that took days. Smallpox spread. Measles spread. The living were chained to the dead in spaces the size of coffins, in heat that historians describe as suffocating and unbearable. In the middle of the ocean, women were kept unchained in separate compartments, not as mercy, but because being unchained made them easier to access. Crew members raped them throughout the voyage, not occasionally, routinely. Those who resisted were flogged. Women gave birth on those ships, without medical care, without assistance. In those conditions, most newborns didn't survive. In one documented case, a captain punished a failed rebellion by killing one of the men involved immediately and forcing 2 other enslaved people to eat his heart and liver, while the rest watched. This is in the historical record, y'all. It is documented in historical accounts of the Middle Passage. About 15% of the people put on those ships, nearly 2 million human beings, died before they reached land. They were thrown overboard, and some were thrown overboard alive, because maritime insurance paid for cargo lost at sea, not cargo that died of illness. Throwing people into the ocean alive was more profitable than letting them die of disease. The most documented case is the Zong Massacre of 1781, in which a British captain threw 132 enslaved people into the ocean alive and filed an insurance claim. The case went to court. The question before the court wasn't whether a crime had been committed, though. The question was whether the insurance policy covered the loss. The ones who survived the crossing arrived at a port and then were processed again. Before they were sold, their skin was rubbed with oil to disguise cracking and lesions. Their heads were sometimes shaved to remove gray hairs and bacteria, to make them look younger and healthier than they actually were. They were examined again by buyers, poked, prodded, molested. George Washington, who would become the first president of the United States, specified in writing in 1772 that he preferred enslaved people not exceeding 20 years of age. He was placing an order for human beings, like you would place an order for food. And the ones who were purchased were put to work. About 80% of enslaved Africans transported across the Middle Passage ended up on sugar plantations in South America and the Caribbean, where the mortality rate was so high that the entire enslaved population had to be continuously replaced through the ongoing slave trade. People worked from before dawn until after dark, in gangs, cutting sugarcane in tropical heat. Feeding it into mills regularly took fingers, hands, and arms. Life expectancy on a sugar plantation was measured in years, not decades.
This is Psalms chapter 137 and verse 3. It says, "For there they carried us away captive. For there they that carried us away captive required of us a song. And they that wasted us required of us mirth, saying, Sing us one of the songs of Zion. How shall we sing the Lord Yahweh's song in a strange land? If I forget thee, O Jerusalem, let my right hand forget her cunning. If I do not remember thee, let my tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth. If I prefer not Jerusalem above my chief joy. Remember, O Lord Yahweh, the children of Edom in the day of Jerusalem, who said, raise it, even to the foundation thereof. O daughter of Babylon, who art to be destroyed, happy shall he be that rewardeth thee as thou rewarded us. Happy shall he be that taketh and dasheth thy little ones against the stones." You see what I'm saying? This is indeed the gravest crime known to humanity. And now the world at large can admit this. You see what I'm saying? And for that grave atrocity, because there are many, because we can sit here, if we was to name and list all the things, all the wickedness, the atrocities that these devils have done to us, beginning with the northern tribes, so-called Latinos, Hispanics, Native Indians, down to the southern tribes, to the so-called Negroes, West Indians, you see, Haitians. If we was to name them all, if we was to list them all, we would be here for many, many hours. You could take the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and you could take the Hobbit trilogy, and you can combine them. The time that it would be of us sitting here listing all these atrocities, all these crimes, man. You see what I'm saying? And because of that, they are going to receive the judgment. All right. That's going to be twice as hard, 10 times, 100 times worse than what we've got. You see what I'm saying? 1,000 times. Let me get that precept. Real quick. This is Wisdom of Solomon. All right, Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 12, and let's start at verse 20. Verse 22. Let's start at verse 21. All right. Wisdom of Solomon 12 and 21. It says, with how great circumspection didst thou judge thine own sons, unto whose fathers thou hast sworn and made covenants of good promises. You see what I'm saying? The Lord made good promises to us, man, to our forefathers. You see what I'm saying? And yet he has judged us harshly. All right? He has judged us harshly for the things that we've done. You see? Verse 22, therefore, whereas thou dost chasten us, thou scourgest our enemies 1,000 times more, to the intent that when we judge, we should carefully think of thy goodness. And when we ourselves are judged, we should look for mercy. You see what I'm saying? We are the ones that the Lord loves. All right? We are his inheritance. And yet he did this to us. So how much more is he going to do to our enemies, man? How much more is he going to do to those who did this to us? You see? All right. All right, so let me see. I wanted to grab a precept. I forgot what it was. This is Second Esdras. All right, Second Esdras chapter 6 and verse. Second Esdras chapter 6 and verse 18. It says, and it said, behold, the days come that I will begin to draw nigh, and to visit them that dwell upon the earth, and will begin to make inquisition of them what they be that have hurt unjustly with their unrighteousness, and when the affliction of Zion shall be fulfilled. You see what I'm saying? The time is coming where these Edomites are going to receive of what they've done to us, man. You see? Because right now they can just simply disagree with the notion that what they have done was an atrocity. They can sit here and disagree with this. But that's why Andrew Jackson, or Thomas Jefferson, that's why Thomas Jefferson said what he said. All right? He said that he trembles for his country when he reflects that God is just, because he knows that there's a role reversal that's coming, and they're going to have to deal with the consequences of what they've done. The fact that they've harmed the apple of the Lord's eye, man. Let's go down. 2nd Ezra chapter 6 and verse 56. All right. Let's start at verse 54. 2nd Ezra 6 and 54. It says, "And after these, Adam also, whom thou madest Lord of all thy creatures, of him come we all, and the people also whom thou hast chosen. All this have I spoken before thee, O Lord, because thou madest the world for our sakes." The Lord made the world for the sake of the Israelites, man. When you read Deuteronomy chapter 32 and verse 8. You see what I'm saying? The world was created for the sake of the Israelites. Verse 56. "As for the other people, which also come of Adam, thou hast said that they are nothing, but be like unto spittle, and hast likened the abundance of them unto a drop that falleth from a vessel. And now, O Lord, behold, these heathen, which have ever been reputed as nothing, have begun to be lords over us, and to devour us. But we, thy people, whom thou hast called thy firstborn, thy only begotten, and thy fervent lover, are given into their hands. If the world now be made for our sakes, why do we not possess an inheritance with the world? How long shall this endure?" You see? Let's let it continue a little bit more.
The system consumed people. That was the model. You work them to death and then you buy more. In the United States, enslaved people were raped systematically by the men who owned them, by overseers, by anyone the law permitted. And when those rapes produced children, those children were born enslaved. The enslaver's blood ran through the veins of the people that he owned. Families were deliberately separated at auction. Children sold away from mothers, husbands sold away from wives, with the specific intention that they would never find each other again. Their languages were criminalized. Their religions were outlawed. Their names were replaced with the names of the men who owned them. Reading and writing were made illegal. The systematic destruction of identity, culture, language, family, and humanity was not incidental to the system. It was the system. You can't enslave a person that knows who they are. So they made sure people didn't know.
You see what I'm saying? And this is why they have influenced the culture so heavily as they did. And this is why they made sure that the northern tribes did not come in contact with the southern tribes to a large degree. You see what I'm saying? They could not allow, so-called Negroes to build bonds and build lasting relationships with so-called Native Indians, Latinos, Hispanics, because they knew the truth. They knew the truth very well. And then within our own, they split families. You see what I'm saying? They split families. They they cordoned off, you know, different people, you know what I'm saying, from familiar faces. They made sure that the language was to be lost. You see what I'm saying? What language were we speaking? We was actually speaking Hebrew. Different dialects of Hebrew, albeit, but nevertheless, it was Hebrew. Okay? And this could have, and this communication could have brought about, all right, the awakening early. All right, but the scriptures say, all right, that he would raise up the tents of Judah first. And so the tents of Judah have been awakened, you know what I'm saying? Beginning with the beloved Elder Abba Bivens. And the truth sprang out of one West. You see what I'm saying? And here we are at the end, where the Israelites are returning back to the to the truth of the matter. All right, to the God of our forefathers, remembering the ways of our fathers, man. You see what I'm saying? This whole thing was an attempt to make sure that we would forget. You know, this was not something that just happened overnight. It was a drawn out process. Like I said, it was meticulously cultivated. You know what I'm saying? It was thought up. Okay, this is why they say that the Willie Lynch letter is not real, but we know that it's real because of all the things that we can see happening today, man. They influenced the culture, they influenced the music, they influenced you know, our dressing, our attire. You see what I'm saying? This is why you have these women dressing the way they dress, these men dressing the way they dress. You see what I'm saying? All right, the brothers, the brothers always quote, they always point out, what was that movie? They cloned Tyrone. Okay, so they used us, the Israelites, so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Indians, man. They used us as a big project, and they're gonna pay for all of this, man. Every bit of what they did. All right, so Lord willing, I'm gonna upload this video in its entirety. You know what I'm saying? But let me get this here in Jeremiah chapter 16. All right. Jeremiah chapter 16 and verse 18, it says, "And first I will recompense their iniquity and their sin double, because they have defiled my land. They have filled mine inheritance with the carcasses of their detestable and abominable things. O Lord, my strength and my fortress and my refuge, in the day of affliction, the Gentiles shall come unto thee from the ends of the earth, and shall say, surely our fathers have inherited lies, vanity, the things wherein there is no profit." You see what I'm saying? And our fathers were stripped from their heritage, man. You see? And here we are, having dealt with what's known as you know, post-traumatic slave disorder. You know, we carry the traumas of our forefathers, man. Both kingdoms. You see? We carry that trauma. I was listening to Elder Malcolm during his live, and they had the beloved Elder Apostle Vakar amongst them, and you know, for a brief moment, you know what I'm saying, brief discussion, they were going into the fact that, Many of them didn't even know who their fathers were. You know what I'm saying? Didn't know who their fathers were. I didn't either for a long time, you know. But so much was changed, so much was altered, so much was was corrupted along the way. You see what I'm saying? And it was all deliberate, all of it. You know what I'm saying? And the Lord is he's going to recompense them double for the things that they've done to us. You see? Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 12. Let's see. Jeremiah chapter 12 and verse. Let's go to verse 7. It says, I have forsaken mine house. I have left mine heritage. I have given the dearly beloved of my soul into the hand of her enemies. You see? The Lord gave us into the hand of our enemies, man. Because of what we did. Because of how we behaved. Because of how we disobeyed him. Because of how we outright disrespected him. You see? When you dive into these scriptures, man, when you go into the Chronicles, when you go into the history of our people, man, you understand exactly why the Lord put us in this situation. Because we have done what we did, and we did it consistently. We did it over and over and over and over. You see what I'm saying? We deserved what happened to us. As harsh as it was, as wicked as it was, man. You see? And the reason why this devil is about to be dealt with so harshly is because of the fact that he treated us in a way that was inhumane. Right? Let's go to Ezekiel real quick. Ezekiel chapter 35 and verse 3. And say unto it, thus saith the Lord power, behold, O Mount Seir, all right, which is Esau. Mount Seir was Esau's original homeland. So it's talking about the Edomites. Thus saith the Lord power, behold, O Mount Seir, I am against thee, and I will stretch out mine hand against thee, and I will make thee most desolate. I will lay thy cities waste, and thou shalt be desolate. And thou shalt know that I am the Lord Yahweh, because thou hast had a perpetual hatred, and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword, in the time of their calamity, in the time that their iniquity had an end. Therefore, as I live, saith the Lord Yahweh, I will prepare thee unto blood, and blood shall pursue thee. Since thou hast not hated blood, even blood shall pursue thee. You see what I'm saying? If we was to sit here, and list all the things that they have done, we would be here for quite some time. Quite some time, man. You see what I'm saying? And the Lord hadn't forgotten any of this. He hadn't forgotten any of this. He was there watching it the whole time. The whole time. Let me get this real quick. Let me show you this image from this quote from Thomas Jefferson. Let me read it. All right, I alluded to it earlier, so let's just read it real quick. Bear with me. All right, this is Thomas Jefferson. He said, I tremble for my country when I reflect that God is just, that his justice cannot sleep forever, that considering numbers, nature, and natural means only, a revolution of the wheel of fortune in exchange of situation is among possible events, that it may become probable by supernatural interference. The Almighty has no attribute which can take side with us in such a contest. You see what I'm saying? They knew. All right? He knew. He knew very well. You see what I'm saying? That if there's ever retribution, if there's ever divine intervention, okay, if there's ever a call for the tab, for the bill that's due, they know very well that they can't pay that price in mere numbers. They can't pay that price with money. They know that they're going to lose everything. This is what they've seen through Project Looking Glass. This is what they've seen. This is what the elites fear the most. And this is why the scriptures say what they say. Let's go to Revelation 12 and 12. See what I'm saying? You don't get away with this, man. And this is what these devils have been trying to do the whole time. They've been trying to hide from what's coming for them. Revelation chapter 12 and verse 12. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. He knows that he has a short time left. Let's go to Job. This is Job. Job chapter 14 and verse 5. It reads, seeing his days are determined, the number of his months are with thee. Thou hast appointed his bounds that he cannot pass. Let's get this in Jeremiah chapter 50, and I'll close this out. All right. Jeremiah chapter 50 and verse 9, it says, for lo, I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon an assembly of great nations from the north country. And they shall set themselves in array against her. From thence she shall be taken. Their arrows shall be as of a mighty expert man. None shall return in vain. And that's what's talking about these missiles, man. When these nukes finally drop, that's going to be America's end. And Chaldea shall be a spoil. All that spoil her shall be satisfied, saith the Lord. Because ye were glad, because ye rejoiced, O ye destroyers of mine heritage. Because ye are grown fat as the heifer at grass, and bellow as bulls. See? And it's time for this to go down, man. For the controversy of Zion. You don't get to ride off in the sunset, you know what I'm saying, and think that everything's gonna be A-okay. You know what I'm saying? And this one chance that you had, this one last chance that you had to admit your wrongs, and your pride said no. You said no. You see what I'm saying? You said no. So I gotta get this last one. Salaki. I gotta get this last one, man. All right. Jeremiah. Excuse me. Jeremiah chapter 49 and verse was it verse 12? Real quick. Jeremiah 49 verse 12, it says, "For thus saith the Lord Yahweh, behold, they whose judgment was not to drink of the cup have assuredly drunken." And that's going into you Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Indians, all right, and you speckled bird Israelites scattered abroad throughout the four corners of the earth, whose lineage goes back to these people through your fathers. It's talking about you, man. Okay? They whose judgment was not to drink of this cup have assuredly drunken. And art thou he that shall altogether go unpunished? You see? Do you get to just ride off into the sunset and let bygones be bygones, water under the bridge, you know what I'm saying? And let's all get along, you know what I'm saying, turn the other cheek, and it was such a long time ago type shit. No. It says, thou shalt not go unpunished, but thou shalt surely drink of it. You see what I'm saying? So I'm going to cut that there, man. I pray this lesson was edifying to the elect of the nation of Israel. This has been your brother Zakaria Allah, branched out here in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. In closing, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Wachar Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, of whom I've grown in this truth under. Peace and blessings to the hopeful elect. Shalom.